Every man thinks he's in control until a woman says the right thing at the wrong time, and his mission evaporates. You want power? Then you better learn this. Lust isn't just pleasure, it's a test, and most men fail it daily. You say you're in control, but how many times have you broken your focus over a glance, a message, a woman who never even earned your energy? You're not undisciplined. You're just hijacked by lust, by ego, by silence in your own soul. Not because of women, not because of sex, but because you've forgotten this. If you don't lead yourself, someone else will. You see, the Stoics didn't hate women. They weren't cold. They weren't monks. They were disciplined. They saw lust, not as sin, but as a force, one that, if unchecked, could pull even the wisest man into foolish decisions. No man is free who is not master of himself. That wasn't just about money, or ambition, or anger. It was about desire, because desire, left unchecked, becomes slavery with perfume on it. Let's be clear, this isn't about suppressing your humanity. It's about training it, because if you're the kind of man who's only focused when he's not texting her, only consistent when he's not chasing, only at peace when he's not involved, then you don't have discipline. You just have temporary silence between your distractions. This video isn't going to bash women. It's going to confront you. Because lust is not the problem. Attachment to fantasy is. And if you don't learn how to lead yourself in a world that profits off your distraction, you'll keep trading your potential for dopamine. And you'll call it love, or connection, or just being a man. But deep down, you'll know the truth. You're not in control. You're just entertained. Desire isn't evil. It's human. It's natural. It's hardwired into us. But that's what makes it dangerous. Because when something is natural, we assume it's harmless. When something feels good, we assume it's healthy. When something is common, we assume it's wise. But here's the truth. Most men have been programmed to serve their lust and call it masculinity. They chase, they prove, they perform, and they build their identity not on values, but on validation. The Stoics didn't demonize sex. They warned against being governed by it. Because the second your clarity depends on who's texting you back, you're not grounded, you're floating, and someone else is pulling the strings. Lust tricks you. It doesn't just promise pleasure. It promises power, the feeling of being wanted, the illusion of conquest, the fantasy of being in control. But when it's over, you're left with less time, less focus, less self-respect, and often more emotional confusion, and maybe worse, a pattern, because now your brain expects that high. So you chase again. You think you're choosing, but you're just reacting. And over time, reacting becomes your personality. You stop building, you start orbiting. Your life revolves around who gives you attention and how fast you can get more. That's not strength, that's dependency with cologne on. Here's the hard truth the Stoics understood. What you crave has power over you, and what has power over you owns your future. If you can't delay a desire, you don't lead your life. You're leased to it. So this isn't about fear, it's about freedom. And freedom starts with learning to sit in your hunger without needing it fed every time it stirs. There's a version of you that's calm, clear, and productive. He plans, he executes, he respects his energy, but the moment lust enters the room, he disappears, because lust doesn't always crash in loud. Sometimes it shows up looking like motivation. You start working harder, not because you're clear, but because you're trying to prove something, trying to become desirable, trying to be chosen. Suddenly, your goals aren't about becoming, they're about being validated. And when that becomes the root of your ambition, you're no longer building, you're performing. You might still hit your targets, you might even succeed in the eyes of the world, but your wins are fueled by external attention, which means the moment that attention shifts, so do you. The Stoics taught that a man must know why he acts. Because if your fire is fed by insecurity, you'll always burn through yourself trying to stay seen. Lust doesn't just cloud your mind, it reroutes your mission. You start building for approval. You start chasing what impresses, not what transforms. Ask yourself, would I still want this goal if no one else ever saw it? If the answer is no, you're not pursuing vision, you're chasing visibility. And that's how lust disguises itself. Not always in the body, sometimes in your ambition. You're not weak for feeling desire. You're human. But if your discipline disappears the moment you start texting her, if your morning routine collapses when she pulls back, if your mind spins all day thinking about someone who gave you one compliment and then ghosted you, that's not just emotion. That's an untrained mind. And no matter how smart, talented, or driven you are, an untrained mind always bows to the loudest feeling. This is what the Stoics trained for. The moment desire distracts you from your direction. Because a man without direction, he becomes vulnerable to anything that feels good in the moment. So if you want power, don't just suppress lust, outgrow its control over your focus. Make your mission louder than your craving. Let's be honest, most of what you call love isn't love. It's obsession, it's fantasy, it's chemistry and chaos in a tuxedo. Because love is clear, love is built, love respects timing, direction, and space. But obsession? Obsession doesn't care if you're building, it doesn't care what you're sacrificing, it only cares about staying fed, even if it burns your peace to do it. This is where most men lose themselves, not because they aren't smart, not because they aren't ambitious, but because somewhere along the way, they started orbiting someone else's attention. You check your phone more than you check in with yourself, you plan your day around a maybe, you trade your routine for a rush of dopamine, and then you call it love, but it's not. It's emotional dependency. The Stoics had a word for this, pathos. Passion, unchecked emotion, emotional intoxication. It was never seen as strength, it was seen as a loss of control. And that's the thing. No one tells you. You can lose your clarity without even realizing it. Not because someone hurt you, but because you handed over your internal compass piece by piece. One compliment, one memory, one night you replay 100 times, and suddenly your self-worth is tangled in their response. That's not romance. That's quiet self-betrayal. Ask yourself this: who am I without their attention? Can I still lead myself without their approval? Am I in love with them, or just with how they made me feel? Because if the answer to any of those questions leaves you shaky, you've built your emotional foundation on someone else's presence. And that's not just risky, it's unsustainable. Here's the Stoic shift. You don't detach because you're cold. You detach because your peace is too expensive to lease out. You don't need to hate anyone. You don't even need to cut them off. You just stop feeding the part of you that confuses chaos with connection. Your clarity is the rarest thing you own, and every time you trade it for emotional turbulence, you delay your evolution. So pull back, sit still, return to yourself, because peace isn't found in people. It's found in your power to stop chasing what never had the power to build you. From the moment you were a boy, you were taught something quietly destructive. If you're good enough, someone will want you. If you're desirable, you'll be chosen. If you impress her, you'll finally be enough. And so, you began to perform. The muscles, the money, the charm, the hustle, not because you were building for yourself, but because you were trying to be seen. This is what society trains you to believe, that your worth is measured by how many women want you, that your masculinity is proven by how many numbers are in your phone. That confidence is just swagger dressed up as self-respect. But beneath that performance, there's exhaustion, there's anxiety, there's a quiet fear. If I stop performing, will I still be wanted? This is where men burn out and break, because they start chasing attention like it's oxygen. They confuse attraction with validation, and they don't even realize that the more they chase, the less they build. The Stoic path cuts through all of that. It says, you don't have to be seen to be strong. You don't have to be wanted to be worthy. Your strength isn't in how well you perform. It's in how well you stay rooted when there's nothing to prove. Here's a harsh truth. Most men would be far more successful if they stopped trying to look desirable and started trying to become someone they respect in silence. But silence doesn't reward you instantly. It doesn't applaud. It doesn't seduce. And that is why so many men avoid it. But the Stoic man leans into the silence. He uses it as a forge. He strips away the performance until only purpose remains. Not because it's trendy, but because it's sustainable. If your confidence only exists when someone's watching, then it's not confidence, it's dependency in disguise. So here's your challenge. Stop posting for attention, stop chasing compliments, stop trying to prove something to people who don't know who they are. Build quietly, lead privately, Let your energy say what your mouth doesn't have to. Because when you lead yourself, well, you won't need to convince anyone. They'll feel it. Here's the trap. Most men don't know how to feel valuable unless someone's clapping for them. If they're not praised, they feel invisible. If they're not desired, they feel irrelevant. If they're not admired, they feel behind. That's not confidence. That's emotional outsourcing, and it creates a loop. You do things to be noticed, you get a hit of validation, the hit fades. So you do more. You start needing applause to stay motivated. Your identity becomes a performance. And even if you succeed in the eyes of others, you feel fake in your own skin, because deep down, you know, none of this was built for me. It was built for them. This is why you feel drained. This is why nothing ever feels enough. This is why you keep working harder and still feel empty, because you're not chasing purpose, you're chasing proof. The Stoic alternative? You stop building to be admired. You start building to become. You don't ask, what will they think of me if I do this? You ask, what kind of man do I become if I commit to this, whether they clap or not? That's the difference between a performer and a leader. A performer reacts to the room. A leader sets the room. A performer is addicted to impressions. A leader is anchored in principle. So how do you start the shift? It begins with quiet. Turn down the volume on feedback. Post less. Explain less. Share less. Let people wonder what you're building. Let your absence sharpen your presence. And in that silence, ask yourself, what am I proud of when no one else is watching? That's your anchor. Not the highlight reel, not the likes, not the compliments. Just the still, unshakable feeling of knowing you're showing up for you. Because when you stop performing, you start transforming. And when you start transforming, you won't have to chase attention anymore. Your energy will speak louder than your voice ever did. You've heard it before. Just suppress it, ignore your urges, be stronger than your feelings. But here's the problem with suppression. What you bury festers. What you avoid controls you in secret. And what you never understand repeats itself in disguise. Lust isn't something you kill. It's something you redirect, because desire itself is neutral. It's energy. It's fire. It's potential. But fire without a container? It burns everything. Most men try to either indulge lust or eliminate it. But the Stoic path offers a third way. Transmutation. You feel the urge, but instead of chasing it, you channel it. You turn it into focus, into effort, into purpose. Think about it. That same intensity that drives lust can drive your creativity, can drive your workouts, can drive your ambition. The raw energy is there. You've just trained yourself to direct it downward, toward distraction, but it can just as easily be rerouted upward, toward power. This is where real masculine clarity begins, not in suppression, not in shame, but in understanding the power of your own urges and choosing where they go. Because if you're chasing women, you're leaking power. But if you're chasing purpose and letting your energy ride that wave instead, you become magnetic without trying. Lust doesn't have to weaken you, but you do have to stop being passive with it. Start noticing the moment you feel that desire kick in. What do you normally do? Text her? Scroll? Imagine? Distract yourself? Now try this. Don't act. Don't chase. Don't suppress. Just breathe. Redirect. Move your body. Channel the tension into your craft. Write, train, build, create. Sit in stillness and sharpen your focus like a blade. That's not suppression. That's transmutation. It's the difference between a boy lost in his feelings and a man who uses his feelings as fuel. Your emotions aren't meant to be silenced. They're meant to be trained. And desire? It's one of the most powerful energies you'll ever feel, but only if you assign it a direction. Think of it like this. A distracted man chases what arouses him. A disciplined man redirects it into what builds him. That's emotional leadership. And most people don't lead their emotions, they serve them. Here's a simple framework. 1. Notice the energy. Don't resist it, just become aware. I'm feeling aroused. I'm feeling restless. I'm pulled. 2. Name the impulse. Is it boredom? Is it ego? Is it loneliness? Get clear on the real trigger beneath the craving. 3. Choose the outcome. Ask yourself, where do I want this energy to go? 4. Redirect with intent. Channel it into something with a finish line, a workout, a project, deep reading, stillness. You'll feel it fight you. That's fine, because mastery isn't about immediate results. It's about repeated refusal to let your lower self win. Every time you interrupt that old pattern, you reclaim territory in your own mind. Here's a challenge, a test the Stoics would have loved. When desire hits, what do you do in the first 5 minutes? Do you spiral? Do you chase? Do you distract yourself? Or do you hold steady, redirect, and return to what matters? That first 5 minutes? That's where your identity is being written, not when it's easy, not when you're calm, but in the heat. Remember, desire doesn't make you weak. What makes you weak is letting it hijack your direction. Your power isn't in resisting the fire, it's in wielding it. And if you can lead yourself when the craving is loud, you'll lead yourself anywhere. Detachment gets a bad reputation. People think it means you don't care, that you're numb, cold, shut off. But real emotional detachment, it's not distance, it's direction. It means that no matter what you feel, you stay rooted in your values. You stay committed to your path. You don't get hijacked every time someone triggers a feeling. Here's what emotional detachment doesn't mean. You stop loving. You never feel deeply. You pretend you're untouchable. And here's what it does mean. You know what's yours to carry and what isn't. You stop letting outside energy define your inner world. You feel without being led by those feelings. Why does this matter? Because a man without emotional detachment is a man without reserves. He's reactive. He's obsessive. He's always one message away from spiraling, one ghosted text from self-doubt, one disagreement away from throwing away all his habits. And that's how you stay stuck in cycles you already know don't serve you. When you detach, you create a buffer, not a wall, but a margin. You give your mind space to observe the emotion before reacting to it. That space, it's where strength is born. If you've ever checked your phone 10 times in an hour hoping she replied, lost your momentum because someone pulled back emotionally, canceled your priorities to chase a feeling, then what you need is not more motivation. You need detachment. Because discipline and detachment are brothers. You can't keep one and neglect the other. You don't detach because you're above emotion. You detach because you've seen what happens when you don't. You've seen how obsession slows you, how fantasy hijacks your clarity, how every time you tether yourself emotionally to someone else's attention, you lose a piece of yourself in the process. And the only way out? Pull back. Reclaim your emotional gravity. Stop orbiting. Start anchoring. Because the most dangerous thing you can give someone is not your love, it's your center, and that should always belong to you. You don't detach to escape feeling. You detach so your feelings don't run the show. Most people confuse detachment with avoidance, but avoidance is fear. Detachment is strength. Avoidance says, I can't handle this, so I'll disappear. Detachment says, I'll hold this, but I won't let it own me. And that difference? It's everything. Here's the hard truth. You only have so much space in your mind, so much fire in your chest, so much emotional bandwidth. And if you don't protect it, the world will fill it with noise that feels important but builds nothing. That's why detachment isn't optional. It's a soul budget. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every thought costs you. Every emotional loop withdraws something. And if you don't track what's draining you, you'll feel bankrupt without knowing where the money went. So here's how to practice detachment with discipline. 1. Identify your leaks. Who or what do you think about that doesn't return value? What messages or memories loop without clarity? Write them down, not to judge, but to see clearly. 2. Reframe the response. Ask yourself, is this mine to carry? Does this belong in my energy today? What's the cost of giving this another hour of thought? That question alone will save you days of spiraling. 3. Hold without holding on. You can feel it, you can acknowledge it, but you don't grip it. Let it move through, don't invite it to move in. And if it comes back tomorrow, repeat the same stillness. That's mastery, not forced repetition. This is what true detachment looks like. You still feel, you still care, but you choose what to nurture and what to release. You become the gatekeeper, not the dumping ground. People will call you cold. Let them. They don't know what it's like to carry your mission. They don't understand the cost of clarity. Because you've been distracted before, you've lost peace trying to hold people too tightly. you've felt. The fog that comes when you orbit someone else's emotions. And now, you're done with that. You're not hard. You're focused. And focused men don't abandon their values for fleeting highs. They stay grounded, even when the world begs for a reaction, because they've trained their hearts to beat with purpose, not permission. The same fire that tempts you can transform you if you learn how to hold it. Here's a secret. Your lust isn't a flaw. It's a signal. It's life force. It's movement. It's potential in its rawest form. But most men waste it. They release it for temporary pleasure. They chase it for momentary validation. They pour it into fantasies, DMs, and half-hearted flings. And in doing so, they stay stuck, spiritually tired, mentally foggy, directionless. Not because they lack goals, but because they've leaked their power chasing shadows. The ancients, not just Stoics, but yogis, monks, warriors, they knew something we forgot. Sexual energy is sacred, and when mastered, it becomes clarity, discipline, even divinity. Not religion, not celibacy, just alignment. When you stop wasting it, you start walking different. You look more grounded. You speak with more weight. People feel your presence, not because you're loud, but because you're centered. You ever wonder why you feel foggy after a porn binge? Why you struggle to focus after chasing a situationship that drains you? It's because your body's trying to tell you, stop leaking your essence. You don't need more stimulation, you need stillness. And stillness isn't suppression. Stillness is containment. Imagine if you stopped releasing that energy just to feel better and started using it to get better, to train, to think clearly, to stay sharp, to stay spiritually intact. Sexual transmutation isn't magic. It's simply redirection over and over again. You feel the urge? Cool. Now do something deliberate with it. Use it to fuel your craft. Use it to endure that extra rep. Use it to sharpen your presence. Use it to stay awake in your spirit, not just your flesh. Because when you move from lust, you chase relief. But when you move from discipline, you become untouchable. There's a version of you, sharper, still, unshaken. He doesn't chase. He doesn't spiral. He doesn't mistake release for relief, because he understands this one truth. Power is not in resisting urges. Power is in reassigning them. You want to be magnetic? Stop trying to impress. Stop trying to seduce. Stop burning all your fuel chasing what can never complete you. Start holding your energy like it matters, because it does. Your focus, your fire, your intensity, it all means something, but only if you direct it somewhere worthwhile. So here's your ritual. Track your cravings. When do they hit hardest? What's triggering them? Boredom, insecurity, ego. Create an urge protocol. When the craving hits, don't just fight it. Have something ready. A workout, a cold shower, a hard-focused task, a journal prompt, a spiritual moment of silence. Reframe the energy. Say it out loud or in your head. This isn't weakness, it's power, and I choose to build, not beg. Sexual energy is spiritual currency, and like all currency, you can waste it or invest it. And the return on investment. Calm in chaos, clarity in temptation, a presence that doesn't have to shout to be felt. You want discipline? It starts here, where the craving lives, where the ego begs, where your future is either sold for comfort or refined in stillness. So here's your vow, not to be perfect, not to be emotionless, but to be in command, to know that what tries to pull you doesn't define you, to remember that lust isn't just physical, it's mental, and if you don't lead your mind, it will lead you somewhere you never meant to go. You're not running anymore. You're not chasing anymore. You're transmuting, and that makes you rare. Final recap. 1. Lust doesn't weaken you. Your obedience to it does. 2. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It's inner clarity. 3. Desire must be given direction, or it will destroy yours. 4. Performers chase attention. Leaders redirect it. 5. Sexual energy is your life force. Stop leaking it. I'm going to end with this. There's no applause in self-mastery. No claps. No followers. No validation. Just the slow, consistent mastery of self, and that is where your freedom lives. For more transformation videos like this, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell.